How's it going? My name's Steven, and I'll be giving a brief overview of what the Internet of Things is and what types of devices are connected to it, as well as the various ways it is currently being utilized. I'll also discuss some challenges and security concerns surrounding the Internet of Things and possible ways to mitigate any breaches in the network that hosts IoT devices. The introduction of the IoT model as we know it today was first developed at Carnegie Mellon University with an internet-connected Coca-Cola machine that was able to determine whether the machine needed to be refilled, as well as whether the soda cans were cold enough and could be automated to correct low or high temperatures of the sodas if necessary. This occurred back in 1982, and it was the first device connected to the Advanced Research Projects Agency network, which is a technology that became the foundation of the Internet. The concept of the Internet of Things and the term itself first appeared in a speech by Peter T. Lewis to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 15th Annual Legislative Weekend in Washington, D.C. in September 1985. Lewis stated, "The invention of people, processes, and technology with connectable devices and sensors to enable remote monitoring, status manipulation, and evaluation of trends of such devices." The next section I will describe some of the more common applications of IoT and how they are being utilized in various sectors of society, including general consumer use, healthcare systems, as well as military and the transportation sector, which all have their own mini IoT networks and practical uses. I'll be giving a brief introduction of what exactly the IoT is and what devices can communicate with it and other devices that create the network as a whole. The generic definition is basically any physical object that contains sensors, processing power, and compatible software that will exchange data with other similar devices and systems over the Internet. The broad scope of the topic was a little challenging to break down into a single presentation, since it has become so ubiquitous and most devices manufactured today can in some way connect to a network and potentially be capable of accessing a network or satellite communication system. A growing portion of IoT devices are created for consumer use, including connected vehicles, home automation, wearable technology, connected health, and appliances with remote monitoring capabilities. It would be accurate to say that most of the devices belonging to the IoT could be found in your home, school, or workplaces, often operating without notice, but impacting or benefiting our lives mostly for the better. I added this graphic as it shows some of the everyday uses that belong to the IoT network, from small kitchen appliances such as a coffee maker to, as I'll discuss later, unmanned drones and used in modern warfare, which all can have foundations built in that allow communications to and from the IoT. Some common uses for the technology that most people are familiar with are things such as Apple devices with HomeKit, including HomePods, iPhones, and iPads. Other tech companies all have a similar infrastructure, including Amazon and Google. As it is noted here in the lecture from the article Internet of Things, a survey, the Internet of Things is a novel paradigm that is rapidly gaining ground in the scenario of modern wireless telecommunications. The basic idea of this concept is a pervasive presence around us of a variety of things or objects, such as radio frequency identification tags, sensors, actuators, mobile phones, which through unique addressing schemes are able to interact with each other and cooperate with their neighbors to reach common goals. Some real-world examples would be asking Siri or Alexa, AI built-in assistants, to place an order at the local Starbucks or to turn on the heater or access security camera footage, all with minimal human intervention by simply using your voice. The command initiates on your phone, then gets transferred to the network, which then sends a request back to the particular device you're commanding, initiating the task requested, then signal back to the initial device whether the task was fulfilled or not, all within seconds. Healthcare and the IoT is one of the more critical uses for this technology and can have the greatest impact on our lives if an error or network failure were to occur. Some of the more current uses include digitized healthcare systems, which can include databases of patients' health records, medication dispensers, past medication history, any family-related illnesses, or potential prognosis of potential future ailments or diseases that a patient may be at high risk of. The digitized healthcare system will only further develop and merge within the IoT, and without proper security measures in place, this can be catastrophic if a failure in the system occurs. Some current devices that are attached to the IoT are automatic blood and heart rate monitors, often a much better choice for the consumer of the product due to the seamless connectedness of the device to a smartphone or computer, and will do much of the work that was not possible before. One of the more critical devices in this list is a pacemaker. Although not novel, it opens the floodgates that allow more communication between such devices and, say, a smartphone or a computer. Smart beds were one of the more interesting devices, in my opinion, particularly for nurses who often have to monitor many patients at a time. To be able to get a notification if a patient is in bed or not can profoundly impact caretakers of patients who may suffer from dementia, for example. IoT contributes significantly to enhance our daily life through many applications come from different sectors such as smart cities, healthcare, smart grids, industrial manufacturing, among others. I chose this quote because I think it reiterates how vast of a network the IoT is, and the range is incredibly broad to include all types of devices from all different sectors in our society. Some of the future uses of the technology in the healthcare sector include nanorobots, potentially designed to find and attack certain degenerative cells or cancer cells that could ultimately prolong life like we've never seen before. This technology suggests that a lot of greatness is possible, however, with that comes the downsides. Prior to researching for this presentation, I did not know how far and wide the IoT is integrated into our daily lives. Transportation is something that I think can greatly benefit from an infrastructure where vehicles, similarly so, being inter or intra-connected, not only with other vehicles on the road, but also with traffic lights, road construction systems, or first responders. If all vehicles are in communication with one another, I think this could have a huge impact on the traffic accidents that are due to human error. If all vehicles act as one entity speaking to one another, it'll practically be impossible for one vehicle to crash into another. Automation of transportation has been utilized for some time already. However, it is only getting smarter with introduction of Tesla's semi-vehicles that, although not fully autonomous, is on the pathway to doing so. I would love to see roadways redesigned to allow for autonomy, which could lessen traffic congestion and keep things safer on the highways. The military-industrial complex is one of the highest budgeted sectors in our society, so it is potentially the sector that may utilize newly developed technology, particularly for use in any future warfare, which is unfortunate in my opinion. Some current uses of IoT in the military include recon, where drones or unmanned ground vehicles are sent into situations that are too dangerous for humans. This can be either in an active war zone or probably will more likely be the case into disaster zones for emergency missions. One of the more expensive uses of IoT, although not on the same caliber as our smartphones, is an unmanned combat aerial vehicle, or drone, as is more commonly known. These are known as UAVs, and there is a debate whether these types of vehicles or devices cause further harm due to the detachment of emotional judgment, as opposed to someone in a cockpit making in-the-moment decisions with many risks involved. The fact that machines can perform specific tasks such as data acquisition and communication more accurately than humans has boosted IoT's adoption. Machine-to-machine communication, big data analysis, and machine learning techniques are major building blocks when it comes to the definition of IoT. These data enable companies detect and resolve problems faster, thus resulting in overall money and time saving. One of the biggest concerns with IoT and the military-industrial complex is the complete detachment of humans if it were to come to the point where a machine is making decisions for another machine. At this point, machines are incapable of empathy and making honest, ethical decisions. That's not to say it is a guaranteed if a human were making the decisions, but the complete removal of a morally righteous decision-making human would be more problematic, in my opinion. The following section describes some current trends of IoT and various sectors in society that have utilized IoT with their own name attached. This section will be a brief reiteration of some of the already mentioned technologies, with some additional new sectors currently utilizing IoT. Internet of Medical Things include all facets of the healthcare system. This is also referred to as smart healthcare, which assists in connecting available medical resources and healthcare services. I see this as having a huge impact to daily lives in parts of the world where access to healthcare is sparse, or places where there isn't a sufficient healthcare system in place. It should be noted that only recently, in 2018, Internet of Medical Things was applied to both the clinical laboratory industry and healthcare and health insurance industries. Internet of Military Things includes all that was previously mentioned, but also extends further to include the Internet of Battlefield Things, which is a project initiated and executed by the U.S. Army Research Laboratory, used to focus on the basic science related to the IoT that enhance the capabilities of Army soldiers. Ocean of Things is a DARPA-led program established for the purposes of collecting, monitoring, and analyzing environmental and vessel activity data. Social Internet of Things focuses on the social interaction and relationship between IoT devices. Applied Internet of Things focuses on low-volume custom IoT devices that are made possible with commodity hardware, as well as the development of widespread use of the technology and the applied science and technology that makes up the foundation of IoT. Internet of Vehicle and Applications enables the gathering and sharing of information regarding vehicles, roads, and their surroundings. Moreover, it features the proceeding, computing, sharing, and secure release of information onto information platforms, including internet systems. Based on such information platforms can effectively guide and supervise vehicles and provide abundant multimedia and mobile internet application services. IOV is an integrated network for supporting intelligent traffic management, intelligent dynamic information services, and intelligent vehicle control, representing the typical application of IoT technology in intelligent transportation systems. As noted in the text, Internet of Things, Principles and Paradigms. This next section has the most research attached and is the biggest challenge to the IoT network system. The biggest concern will be a security breach. No matter the abilities of the device, any breach of security is problematic. IoT is included by the U.S. National Intelligence Council in the list of 6 disruptive civil technologies with potentially impacts on U.S. national power. NIC foresees that by 2025, Internet nodes may reside in everyday things: food, packages, furniture, paper documents, and more. It highlights future opportunity that will arise, starting from the idea that popular demand combined with technological advances could drive widespread diffusion of an Internet of Things that could, like the present Internet, contribute invaluable to economic development. The possible threats deriving from a widespread adoption of such a technology are also stressed. Indeed, it is emphasized that to the extent that everyday objects become information security risks, the IoT could distribute those risks far more widely than the Internet has to date. The idea that IoT is seen as one of the most common disruptive technologies available shows just how integrated into our lives it has to be to have such an impactful label attached. As a quote mentioned, it will only become more convoluted in the coming years. I think end-to-end encryption should be standard on all IoT devices for a start. Some other ways that are currently being researched for security of IoT devices include a comprehensive study of deep learning, big data, and IoT security. The study's focus was to provide deep learning capabilities, frameworks, evaluation metrics, and big data technologies that can be incorporated to protect IoT devices. Currently, one of the issues that potentially threats the IoT devices is the security and the privacy of exchanged/collected data that are often deeply linked to the life of the user. It is also noted that by 2017, more than 20% of organizations and businesses will deploy security solutions to protect their IoT devices. I couldn't find an updated percentage of how much organizations in 22 have IoT protected devices. However, it would be safe to say that security not as quickly is also being developed at a rapid pace, particularly so for certain devices as opposed to others. An example would be Android and iPhone operating systems security and protection, as described in the quote on the next slide. The IoT amorphous computing nature is a problem for security since patches to bugs found in the core operating system often do not reach users of older and lower priced devices. One set of researchers say that the failure of vendors to support older devices with patches and updates leaves more than 87% of active Android devices vulnerable. I think the biggest challenge with security in IoT is the grand scale of the network and how many devices communicate between each other. There are varying levels of breaches, with all levels having its own security protocols. For example, a widespread attack on a city or a country's banking institution would have a very different set of security methods in place versus hacking into a Ring security camera system, as is shown in this link. I cannot figure out a way to include the video into the slide, but if you have time to view the video, it is about a family home with a Ring security camera installed that gets breached, and the hacker is able to communicate and view the camera system. These attacks don't happen that often due to ongoing security patches from Amazon and other manufacturers, but it is still an example of chaos that can occur when hackers become more savvy in the world of technological crimes. I swapped out the link of the video for a still image, however, you can visit the link in the Google Slides link on the discussion page. The following section I propose some topics that could use further research for myself, as well as some topics that I could not find already published research on, so perhaps this is too novel of an idea or that has not been researched much. These include breach of human-computer interconnection, such as hacking of nanobots or brain-implanted devices, and what that would look like. Hacking of autonomous vehicles that could possibly cause serious harm if the extant abilities reaches the point where they are able to physically control a vehicle remotely. Privacy implemented out of the box rather than with patchwork. AI implementation into the networks to make the best possible decisions. Not sure which industry could benefit most from something like this. The credit network is the foundation for our entire infrastructure in the Western world, and a breach of this would cause major disruptions to every facet of life as we know it. Another major vulnerable facet is GPS satellite communication systems. Lastly, I present points for further discussion on the topic of IoT. The following points were the most interesting to me, which are: what kind of damage would a global wide-scale attack look like, and what would the world look like after such an event? This topic is not so much directly about IoT, but its effects on the development of a human brain, with or without technology in general. I think we're just getting to a point where there may be enough data to start to draw up a theory, since some of the early smartphones' wide releases didn't begin until 2004 or so. The IoT topic is incredibly vast and includes most technological devices produced these days, and I can only imagine how much more ubiquitous and convoluted it will get moving forward. Thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful in understanding the Internet of Things and the technology it entails.